Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, Part 5. In the next verse, Sri Krishna Paramatma explains how the soul is immortal. Na jayate mriyate va kadhachit nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha ajo nityashashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The soul is neither born nor does it die, nor does it become on coming into being. It is unborn, eternal, constant, and primeval. It is not killed even when the body is slain. The body, constituted of elements, undergoes 6 kinds of modifications: to be born, to exist, to change, to grow, to decay, and to perish. But the soul remains unaffected by these changes. Sri Krishna Paramatma is explaining this fact in this verse. This soul, unlike the body, is never born, it is eternal. So the Lord in 15th verse has declared in chapter 7, this soul in the body is an eternal portion of myself. The soul never dies. Only that which is born dies. The soul remains unaffected by all kinds of modifications. Of all the modifications, birth and death are the most important ones. Therefore, Sri Krishna Paramatma has used na jayate and aja for the unborn, and also na mriyate and na hanyate hanyamane sharire for the unslain twice. This imperishable element does not exist on coming into being, unlike a child that exists after birth and has a beginning and an end. It is free from different kinds of modifications and is without beginning and end. This soul is never born, so it is called aja, that is unborn. The soul is eternal, it does never decay in the least while the bodies and senses decay and lose their strength. The soul is constant and changeless. It is ancient and primeval. Generally, a thing which becomes old does not grow, it rather perishes. But the soul neither grows nor perishes. The soul is not slain even when the body is slain. Sri Krishna Paramatma means to say that the body undergoes 6 modifications because it is perishable while the soul is imperishable. Here in these verses, Sri Krishna Paramatma has made such a distinction between the body and the soul, as is rarely found anywhere else in the Gita. Arjuna was grieved after thinking about the death of his kinsman in the war. So, Sri Krishna Paramatma wants to explain to him that the soul is not killed even when the body is slain. So, he should not grieve. In the 19th verse, Sri Krishna Paramatma told Arjuna that the soul neither slays nor is slain. In the 20th verse, he explained how it is not slain. Now, in the next verse, Sri Krishna Paramatma explains how it does not slay. Veda vinashinam nityam yayenam ajamavyayam katam sapurusha partha kam gatayati hantikam. How can a man who knows this soul to be imperishable, eternal, and free from birth and decay, O Partha, slay anyone or cause anyone to be slain? The man who realizes this soul to be imperishable, eternal, and free from birth and decay can have no inclination to slay anyone or cause anyone to be slain. He is free from egoism, that is, he has no feeling of agency in him, and so actions don't taint him. Here, Sri Krishna Paramatma has explained that the soul is free from 6 kinds of modifications: to be born, to exist by the term aja, to change, to grow by the term nitya, to decay, and to perish by the term avinashi. Now, a question arises why Sri Krishna Paramatma explained the man who slays and the man to be slain instead of the agent that is subject and action that is object. The answer is that here the theme is war, so it is necessary to say so. But Sri Krishna Paramatma means to say that the soul is neither the agent or doer nor the action or object. Therefore, one, while discharging duty, should not grieve while slaying anyone or causing anyone to be slain, but discharge one's duty in accordance with the ordinance of the scriptures. In the next verse, Lord Krishna explains that the soul is free from modifications by giving an illustration. Vashamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grihnati naroparani tata sharirani vihaya jirnat nyanyani samyati navani dehi. Sri Krishna Paramatma continues to say, as a man discarding worn out clothes puts on new ones, so the embodied soul, casting off worn out bodies, enters into others which are new. In the 13th verse of this chapter, it has been mentioned in brief that the wise man does not get deluded when the soul transmigrates from one body to another. Now, Sri Krishna Paramatma, by giving an illustration, explains that as a man by casting off worn out clothes is not grieved, a man casting off worn out bodies should not grieve. Here the word nara, that is man, has been used for a human being including men and women, boys and girls, young or old, etc. As a man discarding worn out clothes puts on new ones, so does the embodied soul casting off worn out bodies enter into new bodies. This casting off of worn out bodies is called death, while its acquiring new bodies is called birth. So long as this embodied soul has connection with Prakriti, it goes on acquiring new bodies according to actions of the past or according to thought at the moment of death. Here the term Sharirani, that is bodies, has been used in plural form. It means that so long as the embodied soul does not get emancipated, it goes on acquiring new bodies up to eternity. The bodies it has acquired are countless. The term Dehi has been used to indicate all embodied souls. In the first half of this verse, there is mention of discarding of the worn out clothes, while in the second half there is mention of casting off worn out bodies, that is death. So, how can the illustration of old clothes befit bodies when bodies of even children and young men die? The answer is that end of age means the worn out bodies, whether they are of children or young men or old men. In this verse, the Lord, by using the terms yata, as, and tata, so, has explained that as a man discarding worn out clothes puts on new ones, so does the embodied soul, casting off worn out bodies, acquire others which are new. Here a doubt arises that a man is free in casting off old clothes and putting on new ones, but he is not free in casting off the old body and entering into the new one. The answer is that here Sri Krishna Paramatma does not mean to talk about freedom and dependence. His aim is to dispel the grief arising from the separation of the body. One should not grieve over death of a body because the soul remains unattached and unchanged. From this angle, this example seems appropriate. Another question that arises is that a man is happy by discarding old clothes and putting on new ones, whereas he feels grieved while casting off the old body and getting into the new one. The reason is that a man, by identifying himself with the body, wants to live alive and thinks the death of the body as his own death. Thus, he is sad. The grief, that is sadness, is a result of the desire to live, not because of death. I may live. This desire is latent and he has to die. It causes grief. But if he discriminates between the real and the unreal, he is not sad. He rather rejoices. Thus, it is because of his ignorance that he weeps. In his ignorance, he is like a child who weeps while his old clothes are taken off, and he is made to put on new ones. To remove this ignorance, the Lord has used yata as and tata so words by giving an illustration of clothes. Sri Krishna Paramatma has used the verb grihnati for putting on clothes and samyati, that is enter, for embodied soul, because the people generally think out of ignorance that the man changes the clothes living at his own place while the embodied soul has to go and enter the new bodies. So, Sri Krishna Paramatma has used these two verbs keeping the worldly point of view in mind. Something noteworthy. In the Gita, in Yena Sarvamidam Tatam, in Nitya Sarvagatastanuhu phrases, the soul has been described as all-pervading, eternal, omnipresent and constant. While in phrases such as Samyati Navani Dehi and Shariram Yadavapnoti, it is said that the soul migrates to another body. So there seems to be a contrast, but in fact there is none. For example, when a person grows from this babyhood to youth, he says that he has grown young. But the fact is that he is the same. It is the body which has grown young. By identifying himself with the body, he grafts the change of the body upon himself. Therefore, in fact, the soul doesn't migrate, but because of its identification with bodies, it seems to migrate. Now, the question arises why this cycle of birth and death has been going on from time immemorial. From the viewpoint of the discipline of action to reap the fruit of virtuous and evil actions, from the viewpoint of the discipline of knowledge due to ignorance, and from the viewpoint of the discipline of devotion due to disinclination for God, this cycle of birth and death goes on. Out of these three reasons, the chief one is God has granted liberty to living beings to make proper use of their lives, but they have misused it, and so they have to go through the cycle of birth and death. They can be free from this cycle by making proper use of this liberty. It means that if they start working for the welfare of others by renouncing their selfishness, they will be free from this cycle. Moreover, negligence in discrimination is the root of birth and death. If we attach importance to discrimination, we can be free from shackles of birth and death. Similarly, disinclination for God is the cause of birth and death, which can be obliterated by having an inclination for Him. Here, negligence in discrimination means that we don't act according to what we know. We know that it is wrong to tell a lie, but still we do so in order to achieve selfish ends. We know that it is wrong to give pain to others, but we derive sadistic pleasure in torturing others. Similarly, we know that bodies are perishable, but we have attachment and infatuation for them. This is known as an affront to our knowledge.